Let me try a British accent. The first Earl of Beaconsfield, Benjamin Disraeli, Prime Minister, said, I rather like bad wine. One gets so bored with good wine. Bonjour, my name is David DeVere. I'm a wine educator and traveler, and you're watching Savvy Nomad TV, the Eau de Vie edition. This is day number 8 of the Costco Wine Adventure box. It's down here, and let's get straight to opening. Doo-doo. Number 8 is over here. Gosh, why can't I ever find the punch thingy? Seriously, like, what the? Oh. Seems like sometimes it's on the top and other times it's on the bottom. Ooh, one of my favorites, Pinotage from South Africa. Oh, this, you're going to enjoy this. Oh, I sure hope we do. Okay. As always, before we can taste it, we have to think about it just a minute. And Pinotage is South Africa's signature red. Some people hate it, other people love it. I am a fan of Pinotage because when it's done well, it's this beautiful, deep, dark, smoky red wine. It's really intense and flavorful. Where does it come from? How did it get made? And what's its story? Because the story is pretty interesting. And it goes like this. Back in 1925, a professor of viticulture at the university in South Africa, I believe it's in Stellenbosch, made a hybridization of Pinot Noir and Cinsault. Cinsault is a red grape variety from France. Pinot Noir is also, but Cinsault is often blended in with other grape varieties, particularly in the southern Rhone region, and it can be turned into rosés as a single expression or blended into bulk up kind of weaker grenaches or syrahs because it's deep, dark, and red. Now, Cinsault at that time was known as Hermitage or Hermitage in South Africa, and that's because that's a region in the Rhone River Valley that grows Cinsault. So in 1925, they were calling it Hermitage in South Africa. So he blended Pinot Noir and Hermitage together and took 3 little seeds and boop, 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 planted them. And then he went and worked for a winery. That was 1927. The next professor to come in, who was living at that residence, found the little seedlings, took them to a nursery and grew them. Later on, he said to this guy who first made the cross, hey, look, your seedlings are doing pretty good. Maybe we should turn this into a wine. Maybe we should try to propagate more of it. And they thought, well, we need to name it. So they took Pinot from the Pinot Noir and Age from Hermitage and blended them together and made Pinotage. It wasn't until the 40s that an actual planting or a wine was ever made of Pinotage. It wasn't until the 60s that Pinotage ever came up on the label. It's still not really well known, but you can find it in well-appointed liquor stores in the United States or around the world. I think Pinotage, when it's done well, is excellent. My nephew one time at a Thanksgiving meal said to me, Uncle David, if I ever find a wine that I like, I'll let you know. And I had just served him a glass of Pinotage. And I said, well, try this. What do you think? And he took one sip of that and said, oh my gosh, well, this is a wine that I like because it's big, it's bold, it's smoky, it's amazing. Okay, I pray this is a good example. All right, let's get into it. I have been enjoying the randomness of the wines in the wine box. mean, I guess that's what they're trying to do. You know, they're not going with quantity. They're not going with quality. They're going with wackiness, odd grape varieties, and lesser known regions. Not that Chile and Argentina are lesser known, but I kind of think in our uh, first year's box, or that I did anyway, 21, there was no South American wines in that. I'd have to go back and look, but I don't remember any South American wines. South African wines, yes, we've had Chenin Blanc twice, and I thought those were both very well done. So I have high hopes here for the Pinotage. I filled out the top of my tasting card, and let's take a look at it. Looking here in the sun, it's got a nice, I would call that garnet color. Yes, I will go garnet. Okay, aromatics, this is where you make or break a wine, always, is in the aroma. Honestly, not a lot. Now I'm getting a little bit of raspberry. Come on, open up for me. That's why swirling is important, and temperature is important too. If the wine is too warm, it's going to be alcoholic, or it'll volatilize the alcohols more. This is kind of low for Pinotage, 12 and a half. Sometimes they're bigger, around 14%. I can get just a little hint of earthiness here, but not a lot. Okay, well, maybe that smokiness will come through in tasting it. And I kind of want to give this an opportunity to do that. So before I do the top of the card, I am going to taste it. It's earthy, and it's a little bit barnyard. Okay, let's work through our palate here, our tasting palate profile. No citrus. Slight berries. Orchard fruit, no. Tropical fruit, no. Flowers, no. Vegetable and herbs, slight. Roasted, not really. Now, earthy or barnyard. I've got a horse on here. And yes, I'm going to say pronounced. And then for faults. Well, earthiness or barnyardiness is often known as Brettanomyces, which is a secondary bacterial infection in a wine. Now, some people like Brettanomyces. In fact, some brewers intentionally add Brett, is what they call it. They add Brett to their beers, but it is technically a fault, and earthiness or barnyardiness is considered to be Brettanomyces. Is there a heaviness here in the Brett? Not really. I wouldn't, if I smelled this, I don't get any of it. But in tasting it, there is a little bit of earthiness, but I don't think it's a Brettanomyces infection. I think it's actually the wine. So it's not faulted in that regard. So I can put a dot here. Okay, sweetness. Slight. Acidity. Medium. I'm getting a little bit of water. Tannin is noticeable. It's nice, smooth tannins. The alcohol is low. Come back to preference. Body. Let's taste it again. Skim milk, whole milk, or cream. What do you think? I think it's a medium body, actually. 2%. Balance, the balance is good. No problems. Complexity. Now, since I got the aromas of the earthiness only after tasting it, not smelling it, that is an indication of complexity. So is noticeably complex. I'll put it into pronounced. And how is the finish? I'm getting kind of a nice sour cherry finish at the end. It's grippy, feels good. It's got a good finish, so I'll go out here into pronounced. Now, let's go to score the wine. The appearance, 3. The bouquet, it's not overly expressive. I've had other Pinotages that have been much more expressive in their bouquet. This is slightly disappointing in that, so I'll give it a 2. Taste, it tastes fine. Actually, it tastes better than it smells. I'll give it a 4. Finish is nice. 3 points. Overall impression. Now, this is the impression that I get from all the Pinotages that I've ever drank, which, I mean, how many have I probably had in my life? A dozen? I guess that's probably more than most people. But let's see. What do I think? I would give it a 2. Okay? And my preference, I mean, I like Pinotage, but this one, do I like this one that much? Noticeable. Okay, I've done my dots, filled out my score. I'm going to go do my math and make my shape. Okay, here are my final scores for our South African Pinotage. My total was 14 points. That's right in the middle of good. And this is a good example. It's not an excellent example. It's not an extraordinary example. I've probably had about a dozen bottles of Pinotage in my life, and this one is certainly just good. It's not the best. It's not good enough to make my nephew say, oh my gosh, this is the best wine I've ever had. Oh well, but I would encourage you to give it another chance. If this is your first blush with Pinotage, go out and buy a bottle, spend 20 some bucks on it. Don't spend too much more than that. Don't spend too much less than that. And try it with hearty fare. It goes great with holiday meals where you've got lots of side dishes that are hard to pair with. Pinotage is interesting. I think it is South Africa's best red expression, and I certainly do like it. The flavor profile, which is here, is odd-shaped as always. That barnyard that came through in the tasting of it, in the complexity, is really interesting in this wine. It'll be interesting to see if you notice that. If you do, leave me a comment down here and we can talk about it, or you can head over to my Facebook page and you can post a picture of the flavor profile if you're doing these. Okay, that's all I've got for you today. If you've enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And Sarah's up next with her unbiased review. We'll see if she gets the barnyard or not. And until tomorrow, until day 9, I say à tout à l'heure and cheers.
Hi. Ooh, who's who in Pinotage? Fun. Okay, let's see. Fairly dark. Fruity. And barnyardy? Okay, let's have a sip-see. Yep, that's high acid. And kind of barnyardy. Okay, cheers.